This is Tommy's Outdoors 56. The benefits of being outdoors for mental health and well-being have been discussed on this podcast many times. Each time you have expressed a great interest in this subject. I got a lot of good feedback. So today we're back at it with Philip Stallard, who is a director and adventure therapist at New Wave Adventure Therapy. New Wave Adventure Therapy offers outdoors-based therapeutic intervention grounded in disciplines like psychotherapy, counselling, and social work. I had a great time talking with Philip, and I hope I get to talk to Philip again, maybe on the podcast or maybe on some other production. And speaking about some other productions, in case you guys missed it, I'm putting more and more content on Tommy's Outdoors YouTube channel. So head on to YouTube, find Tommy's Outdoors on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel. There's more content coming, and surely if you are outdoors enthusiast, you're not gonna regret it. So find Tommy's Outdoors on YouTube. All right, and so now without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Philip Stallard and New Wave Adventure Therapy. Hello, Philip. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tommy.
You are an outdoor therapist in a New Wave Adventure Therapy.
That's correct.
Could you tell us what is that you do and what is New Wave Adventure Therapy?
No problem, Tommy. New Wave Adventure Therapy is an adventure therapy company that is a social work intervention based here in Kerry, but we cover all of Ireland. I suppose, and to start, what is adventure therapy?
Yeah.
Adventure therapy is the prescriptive use of outdoor adventure activities for therapeutic change. So basically it takes young people, adults, off the couch into beautiful outdoor locations to work on resilience, to work on self-care, and just to kind of work on whatever need is for that individual. Wow. So that's basically what we do. I'm a social worker and I'm an outdoor instructor. So basically what I've done is I've combined being an outdoor instructor and the clinical aspect of a social worker. And bringing both together, we formed New Wave Adventure Therapy. So it's a clinical intervention for young people and adults.
That's very interesting to know. The subject of healing properties of being outdoors is not something that we talk about for the first time in a podcast. And I had a number of people who are, but you're probably the first person who are actually taking people outdoor, hiking, mountaineering, doing stuff. So it's not only like classical work on the mental health and so on, and knowing that being outdoors is a good stuff. You're actually taking people outdoors.
Yeah, so look, as we all know, being in the outdoors is therapeutic. Going for a walk on the beach, just being in the outdoor environment is brilliant for mental health, be it no matter what we do. And I suppose everyone for their individual self-care, they go for a walk, they go for a run, they go for a hike. But I suppose what I'm doing is it's prescriptive and it's clinical. So each person that comes to New Wave, they're referred for a reason. So what we're doing is we're literally taking our office outdoors.
So do people need to be referred to you, or do they can just show up and say, hey, I think it would do me good?
Yeah, both, Tommy. A lot of the referrals we get are people who we work with are referred from government agencies, be it the Child and Family Agency or be it for HSE. But we get a lot of people with private referrals. So like that, if someone reads, I think I need to maybe kind of look at what's going on for me, say burnout at work, or say their own kind of mental health, or whatever's going on for them. Or if they just think, I'm at a point in my life that I'm going through a change, or I'm going through some kind of transition from, say, a loss of work, or whatever is going on for them, they can reach out privately, and we have basically a meeting in the outdoors. Our office is the outdoors. It's the beach, it's the mountains, it's the rivers, it's the whole environment as what you see. Yeah. So we meet with a person in the outdoors. All our work is completely outdoors. There's no office based. So it sounds cliche, but our office is the outdoors. So we'd meet with a person, we'd have a chat like you and I are, and then I'd ask the person, why now? What's going on for them in their life that they feel they need a change? And what they've done previously in their life, what kind of therapies they've engaged in, or what has gone on, or what their history has been. sometimes people might have been kayaking before. They might have felt like, oh, this is good. I can get something from this. And it might be something that, okay, they can see the benefit of being in the outdoor environment, but also towards a goal. And I suppose everyone we work with, like once we do that orientation or assessment, we kind of put together a plan, and like everything is individual to the person. So kind of how it works is we'd have a 4-hour initial assessment or orientation. And basically we're working on what's going on for the person. So that we'd be discussing things like maybe life stages, maybe different things of what had happened in their life, or maybe what supports are in their life, or maybe where they kind of want to go, or maybe what they want to improve in life. A lot of time it could be self-confidence, it could be self-worth, could be identity, or it could just be self-care. And from there then we'd have a 6 or 12 session program. And each session is 4 hours in a natural environment. And each session then would probably work on a team. Could be like resilience, could be self-care, could be whatever the person needs, and it's all individual to them. So that's what we've been doing with the last, I suppose, 2 years.
Wow.
But yeah, it's it's something I've worked on for the last, say, 15, 16 years. My background is working in a special care unit in Limerick with young people. And it was the case that young people were referred from the state. And it was the case, it's a special care facility that would be in a locked facility. They would engage in certain traditional therapies. It wasn't really working well for the young people. So I suppose I was hired originally as an outdoor instructor. So my background, it was a kayak instructor, dive instructor, and like doing hill walking and different aspects like that. I used to bring young people into the outdoors and realized, you know what, there's something therapeutic happening here, but I didn't really understand, but I just realized it was working. We were talking, their self-harm was decreasing, suicide ideation was decreasing, and they were happier. So I was like, okay, there's something about this. So I suppose with any of these kind of interventions or anything, it has to be based in some kind of research. So I suppose I looked at it and looked at the kind of current research, look what was happening. And I suppose there was a university in New Hampshire that were combining outdoor education with social work. It was Dr. Michael Gass and Dr. Rita Tucker. They combined both. So they realized when you're in the outdoors, as we spoke about, it is therapeutic to bring someone to the outdoors as an outdoor activity. And that is therapeutic in itself. But if something comes up, or if you need to work on something in a kind of that, like a clinical aspect, you need to have the backing of a professional qualification. So I suppose that's why I went back and retrained to kind of combine both. So I suppose that's where we are with New Wave at the moment.
So that was actually, you almost addressed one of my questions, because the question is like, how much of it is like you can actually go outdoors and do something versus you do that with the instructor, so what is that? Is it like that actually people never do that? And this is like a motivational part, or is it anything specific that they need to go through the process being outdoors? So it's like, oh, it's enough, go for a hike and you'll be better.
It really depends on what the need is. Like I'd recommend, like mental health is so connected to physical health. Like once people go outside, they go for a hike, they go fishing, they go for a run, you're in the water, completely that's beneficial. There's massive therapeutic gain to that. And I think that's great. And I think that's really, really important. But I suppose if someone has a real need, that if there's acute need, that there's more going on there, that like there is a mental health diagnosis, or there is like someone's dealing with something that is a little bit more kind of complex than they just need to get outside. That's when you kind of need, I suppose, the kind of support and the backup of, I suppose.
So the situation already is kind of too far for just, go for a walk, you feel better.
I think that's like, as I add into like the program, when someone works as part of the program, like they're given things like you go for a walk yourself. And I think what the whole thing is, like when you work with parts of the intervention, it's about developing your own self-care kit. So eventually, like we might work once a week together, and then we might work once every 2 weeks, then once every month. But then eventually then they're on their own. And then they've built up this resilience and this self-care that they can just, as you said, they can go for the walk. They can go for their hike themselves because they've built up those tools. And the whole thing about it is when you're working, I suppose, with an intervention therapist, or I suppose with us, with New Intervention Therapy, it's about building up those, I suppose, tools so that you can bring into everyday life. And the whole thing about New Wave is we're a community intervention. So we work with people, say, each week, and then they go back into their everyday lives, they go back into the community, and then they go for their walk. But I suppose they're working on what we've kind of developed as part of the sessions, whatever it was the initial reason for them being referred. Like they're working on more than mindfulness, they're working on what's actually going on for them. And it gives them, I suppose, a medium to work on. And that's what we do. But yeah, the whole point is that when they finish with New Wave, they have their own self-care toolkit developed, and they have a whole kind of list of things built up that they can further keep going with themselves.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I'm wondering, and again, a lot of these things are obviously stuff that is kind of repeatedly, coming up on the podcast. I am wondering, in your opinion, how much of it is the healing properties of being outdoors, and how much of it is that the lifestyle we have is damaging?
Yeah. I think it's a really good question. And I think, the lifestyle we have at the moment is a lot of it's quite toxic. And I suppose the digital overload that we have. Tommy, what we realized, we're operating 2 years, every single young person I've worked with, what they said is they noticed was the silence. That they've never had that quiet space to themselves, that they could just think. Like we could be kayaking on Tralee Bay, we could be in the lake, and all these young people coming from all walks of life, they'll stop and they'll say, do you know what? It's quiet. It's the first time in their life that they can actually think, that they don't. And when you think about when me and you were younger, maybe you'd have school and then you'd have the social aspect there. And when you went home, that was it. But these young people get like 24/7, like there's digital, there's always something happening, be it notifications, be it alerts, be it messages, they can't escape. So I think, yourself, the question, the technology and the lifestyle we lead, completely. But I think being in the outdoors, like the outdoors is my partner therapist. Like I have young people who go out from Tralee here to go outside, and it might be the first time that they've put their hands on a tree. Might touch the tree, the first time they put their hands into the sea. Like this to me makes no sense. Yeah. But it's just about them actually getting that kind of quiet time, and then that sensation to feel the cold water of the sea. And it's all about just stopping in that moment and kind of enjoying that moment. And I think that's what it is. Like we hear words like mindfulness a lot, and it's an amazing kind of idea. But you know what? Instead of there's huge amount of theory involved in it, but if we just look at it, basically it's about slowing down and kind of looking what's in front of you. Like something small about like looking at the flowers, looking at like the trees, but like to stop for a second. Like how many times do we actually stop and see what's in front of us? Like I know people that go into the outdoors and they have lovely walks and it's great. And I'd see all these photos and I said, have you actually seen the tree yourself? Because when you think about it, people walk with their camera out, and very few people actually will look with their own eyes and take in that moment. So that's one of the things I ask from my clients and people I work with. Let's leave the phones in the Defender. Let's just go outside. And now, unless it's a reason for a medical reason or emergency, I always carry a phone just for that reason. But that for those things that they actually take in the environment with their own eyes and actually see. And actually for the first couple of weeks, they're all like, if only I had a camera now, I could take this. If only I could take a video of this. I was like, well, what do you think it's like just to actually have a look at what you see? Like, look at that beauty. Like, we were paddling out in the lake in Glentonesic, and one young person came out and said, this is beautiful. I've never seen anything like this in my life. He said that, you know what, I think I will keep this image in my mind, that when I'm going through a bad time, I can think of this. And I said, you know what, that is exactly what self-care is. It's building up all of those pictures and images and experiences that you can look at these when you're kind of going through a bad time, think that, you know what, there's so much more to life. Like I work with a lot of young people that they're very down on themselves. They're very negative. And I suppose with everything they get with the social media, what they're meant to look like, what you're meant to act like, what you're meant to dress like there's so much kind of overload on them that they don't know who they are anymore. Yeah. So people ask me what comes up a lot on my sessions, and it's all about self-identity. A lot of young people, they don't know who they are anymore. Or they're afraid to be who they want to be, or they just don't know who they want to be, or self-esteem and self-worth. Like themselves, they don't feel they're worth what we all see and what their family sees and what their support network see. Like I'm not doing anything like magical. All I'm doing is kind of giving these young people and adults a safe space to see what I already see and what people see around them. And I suppose we're all so busy in today's world that these young people and adults, they don't have the chance to stop and kind of reflect and kind of see what's going on for them, and kind of to see what everyone else sees. And I suppose what they do is they see what's in the media, they see what's going on around them, and it's not a kind of a correct representation of what a young person should be in today's world. And I guess that's all it is. We're kind of bringing them into a great space. We're giving them a chance to kind of see the environment. We're doing activities. Now, like every session is broke up into, basically I reflect on how the previous week has been. So they get a chance to kind of tell me what their goods and bads are. And it's always what they seem as what their goods and bads, not what other people said. And then it's always good to kind of go further into that. Well, why is it bad? Why do you think that's bad? Or why do you think that's good? Yeah. And then they're kind of, it questions themselves about like, okay, that is good. This is what I've done. So in a way, I was like, well, you've had an actual really positive week, where they might be looking at, I've had a really bad week. But when you kind of lay it all down, they're like, okay, this was a pretty good week. And then you're framing the activity. Okay, what we're going to do now for today is we're going to, say, go for a walk along the beach. As we walk along the beach, we're going to be kind of surrounded by the tide is coming in. It's a beautiful day. Maybe pick out maybe 5 or 10 things to you for some reason why they kind of, they catch your attention, and then explain why. And then we're having that conversation about what's going on. Then we're stopping, we're having some food, we're having a hot drink on the beach. With that, then you're getting the young people to kind of maybe cook. And like that, I might say something, have you ever cooked? Oh yeah, I know how to cook. But then like say, we might say cook some sausages or something on the beach. They've never cooked. I have people who are 15, 16, they've never cooked a sausage. They don't even know how to like cook for themselves. And I suppose, you know what, a lot of the time I'm working with young people, and it's about basically them developing themselves for when they leave care or when they move out, that they can look after themselves, like independent life skills. Yeah. Like I've worked with some people, and I might say, do you know what, this week, maybe go into the supermarket this week, pick maybe 5 or 6 ingredients, and maybe bake something, maybe cook something, maybe do something, and just have that process of picking ingredients and then putting it together. Like, I don't really mind what people cook or bake, but it's the process that they have to go into a supermarket. Yeah. They have to think of why they're doing it. They have to understand the process. And that's what, for us, it's all about the process. And then they come back and we talk to them about it. Like, how was that extreme difficult today? Or like, they've never done it. Because I suppose they've always had someone do stuff for them. And it's about kind of developing them as people. And it's about moving them on to the next stage, that they can enjoy life, but they can, I suppose, flourish and move on. Yeah. But yeah, look, and as part of that, then we do a lot of reflection. Yeah. So after the session, it's a case of if we have gone kayaking, or if we've gone climbing, or if we've had food, it's like, what did we cover today? What's going on? And like, we use a lot of different metaphors about like what's going on for them in life and how they can relate it back to their everyday life. Yeah. So I think the young people really enjoy it, and we can see the outcomes are massive. Yeah. Like there's a lot of things with different clinical interventions. We use a lot of different kind of moderators and indicators on how you can measure outcomes. But the biggest outcome for us is these young people are going back into education. They're going back into training. They're going back into mainstream things that they weren't part of before we were working. For us, that's marvelous. And
is it majority of young people, or is it like adults?
It's majority is young people, but yeah, I work with adults as well. Right. But yeah, I suppose majority would be maybe males, 15 to 17 years old. But yeah, we work with male, we work with female. I suppose when we set it up, we kind of looked at, we didn't want to have some kind of a generic kind of group program that already exists out there, and that's for a certain population, and it has a need as well. But I suppose for us, we wanted something that was individual to the person. And I suppose I realized when I was working in different kind of same settings in Ireland that there's very little kind of creative interventions for the individual. I suppose the intervention is made, and then the person has to fit into that. But I suppose the way we looked at it is, we create the program around that person. Like, the only thing that is similar is that it happens in the outdoors. Like, every single program is individual to that person. Like, say we might go, we'd bring all the different activities, and they're part of it as well. Like, what would you like to do today? And a lot of the young people I've worked with said this is the first time working with any, I suppose, professional, that they're asked, what do you want to do? What would you like to do? Like, and sometimes we might have planned surfing, we might have planned kayaking, might have planned hiking. They said, you know what, can we just sit down and talk and cook? And we do. And then look, sometimes what we do is we might build some rafts, we might build something else. Like, there's always something going on. But it's a creative way to kind of engage, I suppose, hard to reach.
It almost makes me want to go and hang out with you guys, because it just sounds great.
Well, look, you know, it's every day. it's something that we're passionate about. And I suppose that's why when we set up, myself and my wife Jasmine, we wanted something that was creative and that I suppose that was fun, but reaches kind of people on all different levels. And I suppose that's what happened since New Wave. And I suppose since we've set up, we've seen the massive outcomes. We've got some great recognition. We won the Connect Kerry Innovation Award this year, which was massive for us. And only a couple of weeks ago, we got nominated as the ones to watch in the European Business Awards.
Wow.
So we were like, wow,
congratulations.
This is amazing for us. Like, this is like, we were looking at all the different awards for like hundreds of employees. And then there was like the two of us.
Yeah.
So then I was heading off to Glentonestic last week. And then we got an email saying that in the European Business Awards, we won the national title of Entrepreneur of the Year. Oh. So we're just like, wow, but it's really nice. Like for us, accolades and all that, it shows that we're doing something right. But I think what it is, it's good because it sees people in a lot of different categories. Like there's business professionals, there's academics, there's like different professionals being able to look at us from a whole different array of lenses and go, okay, these guys are doing something special. But for us as well as it's getting the message out there, what is adventure therapy and how do we do it? And the importance that it has to be done right.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'm a big advocate that, like, I'm an outdoor instructor a long time. Like 20 years I've been in the outdoors. I've seen the therapeutic benefits of bringing people into the outdoors. But I think what's important is adventure therapy it's the clinical and the professional use. It's like this prescriptive use of adventure activities for therapeutic change. And I suppose what you have is with any kind of new intervention, you have people just kind of bringing people in the outdoors and calling it adventure therapy. But I suppose at the moment, it's an interesting space because it's only grown. But I suppose in America and in Canada and in Australia, it's registered as a clinician, like it's a registered therapy. But I suppose in Ireland, it's just new and it's coming forward. So I suppose that's why it's important that I went back and trained as a professional social worker, that I'm Kuru recognized, New Gallery recognized, that it's when someone literally trusts in you, that you're going into the outdoors, they need to know that, okay, the person who I'm putting my trust in is a professional and he knows or she knows what's happening. Yeah. And I suppose that's a big thing in the space that like, I suppose you would have talked, there's a lot of different therapies, a lot of different interventions, but I suppose it is important that it's based in something. And I suppose our intervention is social work based. So it's strengths based, it's solution focused. And I suppose for us, relationships are key. And I suppose it's on the back of it's social work intervention. Yeah. I suppose that's important. But look, I suppose the way we looked at it is it's important it's done right. And look, every moment we're enjoying every day we're working.
I'm sure of that. Look, Philip, you touch on so many things. So first of all, you touch on something that I heard as being referred to, that these days we more documenting rather than experiencing.
Yeah.
And this is this thing that you said.
Yeah.
And you could see that, and you probably experience it. I experienced that sometimes you're coming back from something and you have like a literally gigabytes of photos. Yeah. And you probably never even look at those photos.
Yeah,
so
completely.
It's like becoming a first thing to do, just like take a photo rather than just stand up. It's like, what a beautiful landscape. It's like, no, I take a photo first, and photo is, okay, I'm done. I can move on somewhere else. It's like, so these are you see these tourists, they're coming in, and it's like, okay, I think like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was talking with Ellie from C Synergy. Yeah. And she was saying about the lady from Texas, and she came from Limerick to Ring of Kerry to do like 1 day. Yeah. It's like 1 day, drive from Limerick, do the Ring of Kerry and come back. It's like, what the heck? Like, what you don't even, it's crazy.
You know, it's just to log experiences and people, that's what it is. It's like, I need to take a photo of this. I need to do this. And like, I've seen that in some of the most beautiful locations around Ireland and around the world. People will rush up to a peak of a mountain, take a photo and run off. Where like, thing is, you want to go up there, you want to experience,
sit down there and sit for an hour
completely
and ingest what's going on.
And I think that's what it is. It's living in the now and actually enjoying it, like for what it is. And I think that's the biggest problem that what we have. Like, we're too busy with stuff and we're living our lives on social media about what is actually our photos are, what's going on there. Like, that is what's actually going on at the moment. People aren't about like, I want to live my life. I want to actually experience different things. Like, we do a lot of different things where like even something small, like we go over to rock pools, and I have young people even put their hand on the rock just to feel the rock, and they've never actually felt the texture of the rock.
You found fish in those rock pools?
We do, yeah. There's a couple of little different fish, and actually what we started doing recently, which has blown my mind, is we used to go over to rock pools, and I'd have all the young people kind of saying, okay, we need to stop now and kind of just take in the moment about what's around us. And there was all this seaweed around us, and I'd have a lot of young people say, what type of seaweed is that? What's this? What's that? So I suppose I went off and I'd done a workshop, and we developed then, okay, the different types of seaweed. So now we'll actually stop. We will take in the moment and we'll discuss like what the different seaweeds are and what we can do. And actually, there's even parts of it that we can take some of the seaweed and cook on the beach. And actually, it's amazing. Like and I suppose it's shown the kind of young people about how to sustainably harvest seaweed, about how something mad like you can say cut a piece of bladder wrack and put it into a cup and have a cup of tea. Like it just completely, it's an idea of seeing one thing, but I think what us we're all about engaging all the senses. So you're out in the water, you're seeing the seaweed, you're taking it, you're harvesting it, you're cooking with it, you're tasting it, but it's about actually enjoying it and experiencing it. And I suppose adventure therapy is experiential education. It's experiencing different things. And that's what it's about. Like an example would be, I asked a couple of young people, have you ever made a raft? And they're like, no, I never. I've seen them, never. So we will actually put the raft together, we'll make the raft, and then we'll go out and I'll let them off, build it away. And then they're like, is this right? And I was like, no, this is your raft. And this is about a kind of learning curve. So we go out into the outdoor and the raft could fall apart. And they're like, but it's after falling apart. I was like, yeah, we learn the consequences. And it's a case of this is something that we do. And like initially when we started, we have this kind of canopy that in the rain. And I said to one young person, we need to put this up. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing what you tell me. And I was like, that's absolutely no problem at all. The two of us sat there getting wet. And it was a case of, okay, so I think that's what it's all about, that they end up kind of like, okay, this whole thing is about them. It's about them growing, and it's about this whole therapeutic relationship, that it isn't just someone going, right, I'm going to tell you what to do, but it's a case of like, in that example, yeah, we sat there in the rain, and then the young person's like, well, we should put up the canopy. And I was like, we should. So we put up the canopy, we lit the fire, and actually on about the fire, at the very start, I was like, do you know what? We might do some of the outdoor cooking and some of the fires, but now it's such a massive part of the program that if we had a hot day and a young person might say, we're not lighting the fire, it's massive. But to even see a young person like create fire for the first time, now not with lighters and matches, with flint and steel or with a bow drill, if you've ever used a bow drill, you know that can take a long time. But to see a young person's face when they've created something themselves for the first time.
I usually use like a fire starter with a paste and with a steel.
Yeah, we use the flint and steel. Like it's always part of it. We have flint and steel. There's so many and we carry them with it. But like the bow drill, we'd use, and then we'd see how it is. But yeah, it's massive, and it's incorporating all those little things into every session. Be how to start a fire, how to cook, how to put up a shelter. Like there's a lot of different things, and it's about like even small things. Like say we'd go down the beach and we'd put up hammocks on rocks with no trees. So we'd always have hammocks, because I think it's a really important part of every session that we stop, we kind of reflect, and we just kind of have quiet, because a lot of young people never have that time just to stop and reflect.
This is so huge, and I'm always not always, but often describing that if you go into the rural setting, I have a friend. Our friend is running a fishing lodge in County Cork, and the moment you go there, you drive on, you get out of the car, you almost feel like everything is going slower. Everything is slower, and the people are kind of more relaxed. It is like you feel like you almost moved to some different place where like you said, like it's quiet at night. It's quiet. And you know, so sometimes wasn't it quiet?
It's absolutely amazing. Like we in my backpack there's always a hammock, and literally we put it up. We just, no matter what it is, we'll stop, we'll have the hammocks up, and I have young people saying to me, I can feel as if I'm just recharging. You know? And like, you are in these outdoor spaces with a beautiful green environment, but like they're just stopping, they're just taking it in, and they're just having that quiet. Like we use the beaches a lot where we have no trees, and I bring hammocks, and it's like, okay, we need to put up a hammock here. And they're like, there's no trees. So it's a case of we find out how we can actually set them up just with rocks or boulders. And it's all about being creative. So like that, we will have maybe an hour or so.
This is fantastic, because
it's making them think.
Yes, exactly.
They're processing it. And they do it.
Rather than like, okay, this has to be like this way. And it's like no. So kind of like overcoming obstacles.
And that's the key.
So I guess this is one part of the thing that I saw on your listed on your website, the kind of learning to adapt and deal with the situations, right? It was like, I always love these exercises in the military where they have like a Jeep, but the Jeep is missing a wheel, and you need to think on your feet. You need to adapt, do something with it. This is, I think, it's such an important skill.
It's massive.
That then transfer to everything that you do, and you can be sitting in the office, and I don't have experience with young people, but I have a lot of experience working in the office environment, and quite often it's like, oh, what are we gonna do? It's like dead end. It's like, no, it's far from dead end. It's like all these options. You just have this mindset like, okay, no matter what, you go forward, there has to be a way. And
I think that's what you actually said there, which was amazing, because you've literally just hit the nail on the head. Like, because I speak to some people and they're like, okay, I hear what you're saying. You're bringing young people to the woods. You're bringing young people for walks. You're bringing young people for kayaks, and you're bringing young people building different things. But how does that translate to everyday lives? And exactly what you said, everything you do when you're learning to overcome obstacles and you're learning to kind of deal with things on the go, all of that is transferable into everyday life. And that's what it's all about. Like, as you said, putting up a hammock without trees, that's about like, if they're in everyday life, if something happens, that they're able to deal with, or they're able to kind of deal with that, kind of sit with that feeling. Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Kind of remember the thought process.
It's the process that they can deal with a problem. It's problem solving in life. And I suppose that's what we do. So that literally we build them up, that they have this resilience, and kind of, it's a toolkit. So if they come up against anything in everyday life, no matter what it is, that the transferable skills that they've learned with adventure therapy, that they can bring into their everyday life. That is the key. So that literally, if something comes up, no matter what it is, that they don't pass that exam, or something happens, that someone gets sick, they know, or whatever happens in their life, that they can kind of sit with that. Okay, what's going on? Okay, how do I react to this?
Yeah, have this attitude, and
I think so. Yeah,
and then being in the outdoors, I guess it allows you, like you said, be more connected with your thought process and what's going on, because you're not getting bombarded by all these things, and so you learn quicker.
I think so.
And it's fantastic. Do you have any problems with getting referrals? So do you find that sometimes people have an attitude towards like, well, these people are playing in the mud, but you better go to the professional, who will give you a pills and whatever.
No, do you know what? It's a really good question. And I guess, Tommy, that's the reason why I went back and became a social worker. And I guess what it is like, it's not as if we're just out kind of playing in the mud, which we can play in the mud in the sand, but like it's professional social work. It's grounded in social work theory. So like, I have the agencies, like the social workers, mental health and child protection, who refer to me, who trust what we're doing is right. And I suppose they can see the outcomes for their young people. And the good thing about it is, young people are a pretty good judge of what you do. And they're very honest. They're not tied to any kind of constraints. So all it takes is for a person to ask these, how they're getting on, what they're learning, how they're like incorporating into the program, and how it's actually affecting everyday life. And then you can see it then in the outcomes, where the young people are not self-harming, they don't have any more of these kind of destructive thoughts, and they're going back into education, to training, to different things. But yeah, like any new intervention, it takes time. And I suppose at the very start, we made sure that we built it right. We had like a proper structure in place. We knew what we were going to do. But look, like any kind of, I suppose, micro business, you take a chance. Like you mightn't get referrals, you work for yourself. We're not government funded. So like if we don't work, like we don't keep the lights on. But I suppose we have been lucky that kind of, I suppose, in Kerry, there's been massive supports, like the agencies trust in what we do.
Well, I guess that the people who ever went through your program then have no doubt, and then they can refer other people.
See, this is it. And I suppose word of mouth is massive. Like you can have as many brochures and you can have as many websites and different things. But I think words of mouth, when people have worked with you and they have actually gone through your program, that they tell people, and that's the truth in that, and the honesty in that referral is massive. And I have people ring me and say, you were working with such a person, can you help me, or can you help my son or my daughter? And we say, look, you know what, we'll sit down, we'll talk, we'll tell them exactly what we do, what we're constrained to, how we could work for their, I suppose, individual inquiry, or whatever's the situation. But I guess that's, And I suppose that's why it's great, I suppose, to have these awards, because it shows recognition of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's important to have people kind of, because I suppose we're in our own little bubble here in Kerry, but to have people outside, I suppose, in a European scale, kind of saying, okay, what these guys are doing, it's something special and it's something kind of exciting. So I suppose that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having referrals from people who have gone through a program is really, really important.
Yeah. So you actually, when, like you said, you went back and you done your certification as a social worker precisely to get the credentials.
Yeah.
So to kind of not have these against you that, oh, who is this guy?
Well, do you know what? I guess what it was is I say when when I was working in a place in Limerick, I was out with young people the whole time, and I was doing all the outdoor. I had all the outdoor learning. I had all the outdoor education. So a lot of that is based in experiential learning, and I had a lot of different things. But I was like, if there is so many other aspects coming up, like trauma-informed care, strengths-based, there was a lot of different kind of things come up that I wasn't fully aware of. So I think it's important that something like adventure therapy is grounded in a professional qualification. So when I actually looked at the people who were writing the books, they're like, what is adventure therapy? They're like, adventure therapy is like the prescriptive use of adventure activities given by a qualified mental health professional, be it a social worker, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. So it was like, for me to have kind of this basis going forward, it was really important. So yeah, I went back and retrained, because I knew if I didn't have that grounding in clinical work, I wasn't going to be able to kind of answer and be there for the people I work with. Like all I'd have, I would be an outdoor instructor.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, being an outdoor instructor and people the outdoors, there's massive benefit from that as well. But it's not adventure therapy. It's more like an adventure experience, which is a good thing in itself. Like so many times that me and my wife might book in to go and stand up paddleboarding with another company. It's nice just to forget about what's going on and just get out into the water. Yeah. But like, if I want to talk about like maybe a childhood trauma to that instructor, he's not qualified to do that work.
Okay, so you're touching on important difference between adventure experience and adventure therapy, which is more methodical.
I think so. I'll give you a good example. Like I had a young person come to me one time, and he said that like it was the case that he went with another adventure therapy company or more outdoor instructors, and he was like, okay, this is going to be great. So we got into the kayak, and they were kayaking. And then he basically came out with something that was like a disclosure. And then the instructor who was running the session said, oh, just hold that now and we'll finish paddling. And when we get back, I'll refer that on for you. And so you have a young person going, okay, I've opened up here. Yeah. This has gone nowhere. Yeah. And so let's just finish kayaking. You keep that inside, and so then I go back. So this is where
the window of opportunity opened, and it was completely missed because we were actually kayaking at the moment.
So with us, if something like that happens, you can refer on to the clinician as well, but you stop and you talk about what's going on for that young person, because that is why we're doing the work. Yeah. The kayaking, as I said, it's amazing to do it, but all of the outdoor activities is just a medium to engage with the young people. Yes. Like, so these young people, they don't want to go into an office. Like, even for myself, Tommy, being sitting inside here talking to you across the table, this is for me I'm not used to this. I'd normally be more used if we were walking down the beach or if we were rock climbing together and talking or mountain biking. It'd be more natural. But imagine me sitting here and I'm telling you how I feel as a young person and what was the first time I had an outdoor experience. It would feel kind of artificial, kind of having that conversation. But if we were out fishing, you'd be telling me that you went fishing with whoever brought you fishing for the first time or brought me fishing. We have this kind of shared experience, which feels different. And it doesn't feel that kind of intrusive. But I think so that's what it's about. And that's the reason why I went back and trained as a social worker. And like that, every day for us, Tommy, is learning. Like there's not one day I come off my session and go, I've learned something new. And I'm always looking at new research. Like there's research coming every day and every day. And I think one of the most important things we've done is when we set up, I was like, okay, I know this amount, but like if I come against something that I'm not sure of, where do I go? And I suppose that's a big kind of big question that a lot of adventure therapists around the world didn't have. So I suppose I looked at the main academics in the world and the main kind of practice and people who are doing adventure therapy. And I found a lady in America called Dr. Mary Lung, who's a clinical psychologist, and she clinically supervises me. So every couple of weeks, every 3 or 4 weeks, I have clinical supervision with that lady. like via kind of Skype or Zoom. So I'm kind of saying that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working. So she challenges my practice, kind of why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Okay.
So I think it's very important that when we're working with vulnerable people, that it's grounded in academia and grounded in research and grounded in professional practice. So I suppose that's where I'm bringing the difference between where my adventure therapy is and where maybe another person coining the word adventure therapy.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's an interesting concept where I suppose in Ireland at the moment, it's not a protected title where a social worker is a protected title. Like you can't just call yourself a social worker in Ireland. You have to go back. You have to do the social work masters. You have to do the clinical practice. You have to do that. But like in Ireland, adventure therapy, someone could say, I do adventure therapy. But like when you drill down into
it, fishing.
You see, this is it. And it depends on where you are on the spectrum and what is. And I suppose when we set up, that's where our space where we're in. Now, like there's space for different, I suppose, interventions, depending what's needed. Like, you know, you could go out, like someone could say, I'm bringing you fishing therapy, depending what it is. And kind of the word therapy, it's an interesting word. But I think when you're dealing with vulnerable people and when you're dealing with kind of complex cases, it has to be grounded in a professional.
Because the responsibility is huge,
so,
because
it's
you're
massive.
kind of responsible for their lives.
Yeah, and once you open up that kind of jar and like people are trusting you, and what we say is like we're creating this safe space. And I suppose what New Wave kind of had from day one was that literally when the young people meet with me, they'll only ever meet with me. Like they won't meet with like Jasmine, my wife. She deals with all the kind of say referral on the organization. So if you ring as a social worker or a guardian or as a professional or as a parent, you may talk to Jasmine. But like in the outdoors, it's me all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is what we're kind of proud of is the young people, they only tell their story once. So like every young person who works with me, and we do normally 12 sessions and then we might do a follow-on program, they know that every day they're going to meet with me. That I'm kind of on the journey with them the whole way through.
So they're building kind of bond.
They're building a bond. It's all about like a therapeutic alliance and a relationship that they'll always. So it'd be no point if they're thinking I'm going to meet Philip today and then Tommy's there today. Sorry, Philip is busy. Like they're like, well, you know, they have to start over that kind of relationship with yourself and all that. And I don't think that's, I suppose, good enough, especially when people are given their time to kind of invest in what you do. And that's why we do. It's all individual and the whole program is individual to the person. Yeah. But yeah, look, it's, as I say, every day is learning. Yeah. And it's like we're enjoying it.
Do you think that in the recent years, there's a more and more, you know, this type of issues and there's more and more need of what you do? Or was it like all, because this is something that fascinates me, you know, whether we as a society became, you know, weak and dysfunctional in some ways, or whether it was always there, only it wasn't visible because people were not paying attention because life was so much harder and they just don't have time.
Do you know what? I think it was always there. Like there was always an element that young people were struggling with different things. I think the way society is at the moment, it's more. And I think maybe even the young people's support networks, like parents maybe could be so busy with work and different things. I think there's so much kind of pressure for young people to be a certain way, to look a certain way. And I think back in my day, we never had, I suppose, social media. So we didn't know how you were really mental. We had the TV and different things. But I think there's so much kind of pressure. Like I remember when I was a kid, I remember the first lady who brought me snorkeling in the Cumber Mountains. And I still remember that, you know what, that experience as someone has stopped for a second, taken time to bring me snorkeling. And whilst I was in the water, I noticed that it was amazing. I could see fish. And then I realized, you know what, there's more out there than my small country town. And I suppose I always had that feeling that someone else would stop for a second and give that time to me. And I suppose what's massive dealing with young people now is literally that one responsible adult that someone can actually stop. And like young people come from all walks of life, all different types of family units, family setups. And it's like sometimes they just need that time just to stop and kind of be listened to and kind of see who they are and what they can become.
Right.
And I think that's why we use the outdoors. I think it's a massive kind of medium. And I think it's massive catalyst for change.
So you see like this is getting more and more because of the technology. And it seems like the technology, as good as it is and as makes our lives, you know, better and easier, it's screwing up so many things. You know? But
like it's should think about like how many young people get outdoors at all. Like, you know, they're on screens all the time. You know, and I suppose when you think about like their like obesity in this country and across Europe has gone through the roof. So young people aren't active. And I suppose when you're not active, like physical health and mental health, they're so connected.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
And I think that's what's going on at the moment. I don't think people are like exercise and mental health. And the thing about it is mental health, it's always moving. Like, you know, like I personally myself, I look at mental health as close as physical health. Like we can all have bad days. And I think to have a kind of a plan and to have ourselves that we kind of know how to look after ourselves. And I think it's really, really important that we look after our own self-care, like our own self-care plan. Like myself personally, if I ever get grouchy, I nearly have to take my surfboard and go into the sea. Even if there's no waves, I'm paddling just to get in the water. And I think we have to incorporate that into our everyday lives. Like you hear words like that, self-care, it's thrown around a lot, but I think it's about to actually put it into practice for each person.
It's taking action.
It's action. It's easy to say the word, but I think like whatever you do yourself, and for me, it is. It's mountain biking, it's surfing, it's walking, it's getting into the sea. Like every night without fail, I try and go down to the sea and just to jump in for a swim, no matter what it is. And it just kind of recharges me for the next day.
Yes.
So like if I'm talking to someone, I'm saying, look, you need to work on your self-care. What is your self-care practice? What's your self-care plan? This is what I do. And this works for me. It mightn't work for you, but this works for me. And then you're kind of talking about, what do you like doing? And then they're, well, actually, I like blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe that can be your self-care plan. Because the thing about self-care, it's what works for you. Not what works for your friend or your husband or your wife. It could be. It's good to have a look around and see what each person is doing. But I think it's about having something individual for each person.
Yeah, and it almost have like a self-care might have like a bad connotations that you're doing something unnatural or you need to take, do self-care. Well, but I think this is like, I like cycling, so I go cycling every day or every second day. That's my self-care. This is like kind of nothing unusual, right? I'm not ill. There's nothing wrong with me that I need self-care. I need self-care because this is what I do. I like fishing. I have a friend who is working in the kitchen in the hotel, right? And he's probably one of the toughest people I know and one of the hardest working people I know. Is incredible. And he's also probably one of the best anglers I know. He's fishing all year round. He's fishing in all the conditions. And this is, I know, and he knows this is so much connected. Because if he doesn't have this fishing part of his life, the rate that he's working so hard, it would absolutely crush him.
Oh, completely.
It would crush every person, right? And I was like, how you do that? You're so tough. Well, this is how he does. He comes back after grueling day at work in the kitchen, and guess what? He puts on his waders, he gets the rod, he goes into the surf, and he fish for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. He may catch nothing, but this is this element, and this is, and you say like, oh, you're doing self-care, but really at that level, you don't think about it as a self-care. This is part of who you are and what you do, and that's what makes you stronger.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He is in practice looking after his self-care, and that's what he needs to. That's what we all need to do. But like he's able to put apart his everyday life, his work life, and go, okay, this is him time. But I think when we use the word self-care, it's like looking after ourselves. People are like, well, why? Like, when do we actually like?
Nothing is wrong with me.
But see, that's it. And people think that, oh yeah, if I need to do this, am I sick? Am I unwell? Or do I have some kind of label? And it's not. You know what? I think that we all need to look after ourselves and each other. And I think that's the big thing. People don't. They'll give time for everyone else, but like, will they kind of stop and look after themselves? And I think people think it's kind of selfish or something that someone might go.
It's almost like, this feel of guilt. Like I feel guilty. Well, not I, but like I feel guilty, right? I'm going, 6 hours cycling, or I'm going fishing, or I'm going somewhere. So it's like, I should be doing something else, right? And then I heard about this concept, I'm going to sacrifice myself, right? And I'm not going to and then actually you're not sacrificing yourself, you're sacrificing everybody around you.
Completely.
Because you need to be this strong. And I think it's especially happened a lot around males, around men who they have a family and they reaching that point is like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to work as hard as and like, look, this is bad, right?
And you can see where that went.
You need your family need you to be strong and take care of them. So you're not doing anyone any good by sacrificing yourself. Like go out and cycle, go out and go fishing, come back strong, and then you can take care of your family while you're strong. So
this is it. Look,
this whole concept of sacrificing yourself for it just doesn't work.
It is, and I think in our society, I think even as you said, like male ego, it's like a case of, do I need to do this for myself? Is it like, as we spoke about, selfish? But like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, if you are looking after your family, you're looking after whatever. And a lot of caregivers, they would give a lot of professionals working in the care environment, they give all themselves to whoever they're working with, and they don't look after themselves. And what happens then is you've got this massive occupational burnout.
Yes.
And that's why we're getting a lot of calls now, which was an area I never thought was when we set up, like from corporates ringing us and saying, well, actually, I run this company, I run that company, but I'm feeling tired. I'm not sleeping at night. I feel fatigued. I'm feeling down, but I shouldn't be feeling down. And it's a case of they're burnt out because they're not looking after them. And it might be a case of just to bring them out onto the middle of Tralee Bay. I brought a guy out recently enough into Tralee Bay. We were looking at the seals. There was a sunset there, and he was like, oh my God, you couldn't pay for this. And I was like, well, and he's like, you mean I could just do this myself? I goes, you could do this every night you like. Why don't you have and he was like, oh my God.
Yes.
He rang me the next day and he said, I slept last night. I feel regenerated. I've been telling people about this and they think I'm completely off the wall. But it's just about, people just don't realize that they really, really need to look after themselves. And that's why I suppose we're getting calls from different companies, different like agencies to kind of just have talks with people about, because it's a simple enough idea. It's just looking after you. But it's about putting that into practice, because I suppose, say I have this Google thing on my phone that I get any research about adventure therapy or self-care or attachment. I get it all. And it's just reams and reams of massive stuff. But to kind of suppose digest all of that for anyone normally every day, it's just so much. But the whole key to it all is just look after yourself. And that's it. Find something you want to do and give yourself that time. And maybe something even small about leaving, like we started recently enough, that if I come in, I leave the phone in the jar in the hall, that we don't have phones kind of on the table, that our phones are switched off at a certain time, just to have that kind of, because like, think about it, when was the last time you went to a restaurant? We went to a restaurant recently enough, myself and my wife, we looked around, it was like amazing food by an amazing chef here in Tree. And there was people all around on their phones, taking photos of everything.
It just breaks me up. You can see the couple on the holiday, and they're each on their own phone, but they're not looking at each other. It's like, what's wrong?
All on their phones, and it's just about like, and just a small thing about like, you'd have like a couple at night, and then literally they're sitting there in their house, and it's this disconnection with people. So like and I think that's what a lot, even for couples, I work with some couples, and like they're having, let's say relationship issues and what's going on, and I kind of talk about like, tell me about your typical day, and then maybe have a look at your screen time. And they're like, well, we only have maybe 2 or 3 hours with each other in the evenings. Maybe that's the reason, but they're on their screens 6 hours a day. So even when they're there, they're not present in that moment. And I think that's the kind of thing. Like if if anyone could take away from what I'm saying is just be present in the moment, look after yourself, and kind of maybe just take a moment that you enjoy something small, like you go for a walk, you look at a flower, you pick a blackberry, just taste it. I asked actually people one day, I said these people a challenge, go for a coffee in town somewhere, actually drink a cup of coffee and tell me what that coffee tastes like. Because and a woman came back to me who I worked with now for the last couple of weeks. She's been drinking coffee every day of her life for the last 40 years, and she's never tasted coffee. She said, I actually went and she sat down and she said, I taste it and it has this bitter flavor. It has this kind of chocolate tones. I was like, okay. I was like, do you know what you're doing? You're mindfully drinking a cup of coffee. I said, do you drink? She goes, I drink a glass of wine. I was like, well, do you actually drink a glass of wine? She goes, not really, no. I was like, think about like, if you do things in your everyday life, the smallest things, like whatever it is, just be in the moment and kind of actually enjoy that moment. And it will mean so much more to you. It's just to stop, to slow down and enjoy it. But people don't. And I guess because we're so busy, life is so busy at the moment, and I suppose there's so much competition for work, for accommodation, for just progression. And I guess, you know what, it's about how are we kind of evaluating success?
That's exactly it, you know. And I don't remember where, but I heard that this fantastic quote that someone was saying, like, you know, you think you had a success, right? You have your house, your company, your cars, your all these things. But you're unhappy. Yeah. Like, you built a shitty house. Yeah. You know, you're like it's all like, do you think you have a success with all these things? But you're unhappy. Like,
I sat down talking to a man recently and he said, I'm unhappy. I don't know why. I should be happy. And I said, well, talk to you. He said, well, I own this massive house. I have this beautiful car. I have this massive company. I have never wanted for money. I can go anywhere I want in the world. I'm in traffic all day. I don't see my family. And I was like, just stop, slow down. Like, what have you said? And he was like, well, and then when you actually kind of just have a look at what's going on there, there's no connection with people, with your family, what's important. Like, there was a really interesting piece of research done that I think there was psychiatric nurses and mental health nurses. They interviewed people on their deathbeds about what they would further regret or what they would have changed from their life. And these are people who ran massive companies, massive things in their life. And they said, what I would have changed is I would have literally went for that promotion. I would have stayed and maybe spent more time with family, more time with loved ones. Do you know, like, today is International Coffee Day. And I was, look, how many people I get texts every week from friends going, oh, meet for coffee. And I'm just so busy with stuff. But you know what? I think it's important that you stop and kind of go, do you know what? Have that coffee with the friends, have that coffee with a loved one, or just stop and kind of have that connection and have that time. Because I think we lose it. I lose it myself because we're kind of running, like, I suppose there's the other side. We're running a business. We're running a business from home. Like, our office is the beach. But like, we're always we have our meetings as we're walking and talking. We've got 2 young sons. We're running, like, you're trying to run a family. You're trying to run a house. You're trying to run a company. You're trying to look after yourself. And then you're trying to be a husband and wife. You're trying to have that time as well. But like, it's important then that you just try and plan out what's important and what's the quality time. Like, I think my son said to me one day, he goes, Dad, can I book in an adventure with you? So I was like, okay, every day I'm doing these adventures with young people all over the country. And I was like, okay, my own son is saying, and I was like, okay, this is important. So like, every week then we will do an adventure. We'll go look for treasures in the woods. But we make sure that we're on the beach most evenings if we can. But it's important, if at all possible. Like, now you don't have to be restricted by where you live. There's green spaces all over the country. Even if it's the smallest little thing, I think just to have that space with your son or your daughter, I think it's so, so important. And I think that was one of the reasons we set up, I suppose, New Wave. I wanted to be able to have my own time, that I could spend time with my son, spend time with both my sons. And I think that was really important, that we could kind of manage our own time. But we're just still, I think it's all about balance and equilibrium. I think it's easy for me to say here, but like, I'm only learning equilibrium myself about what's important and how I can manage it. But I think every day is different. You have to see what you can manage but look what you can put in place. But I think what's about is finding out what's important to each person and what's important to yourself.
Absolutely. So listen, before we wrap this up, tell us, like, what people can expect on, like, what type of activities they can expect with the adventure review. I know you kayaking, you know, is
look, it really, as I said, it depends on the young person. But there's a lot of land.
So how big is the group?
It's 1-to-1.
It's 1-to-1.
But basically, actually, it's 1-to-1, or it can be a family unit. Okay. So like, say if a young person was referred or a family came to me, and basically I can work with a family, I can work with siblings, but it's always going to be the one kind of family unit or the one young person. There's never going to be like a whole different group scenario.
Okay.
So they're not like,
that's important, because like, somehow in my head I had like you have like a group of people and
No, I think the important thing for us was 1-to-1. And I think it's kind of sat with me. I brought 2 young people a long time ago. I think it was about 15 years ago. I brought 2 young people mountain biking, and both young people had very low kind of self-confidence. And one young person was way better on the bike, and the other person wasn't even able to cycle a bike. And I realized I'm bringing these 2 young people cycling, and I'm nearly feeding into this person's self-esteem because he's not as good as that other young person. Now, team dynamics and working as part of a group is important. There's massive benefits from that. And maybe eventually down the line, I will look at incorporating group work into maybe people who have gone through the program, or it depends on the people. But normally the people I work with individually, 1-to-1 is key. And but activities, mountain biking, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, outdoor craft, bushcraft, diving. Like, it really depends. Climbing.
Right.
we're pretty good. Like I'm an instructor with a lot of different activities.
And you also have all the equipment, so they then don't have to worry that they don't have a kayak.
No. Basically, we have this. It's funny. My friends kind of the adventure vehicle. So we have this vehicle that we got built. Actually, it's a custom vehicle that we got built by Stryker Land Rovers in Alcashla.
All right.
I went to Ian there from Stryker Land Rovers and said, "Look, this is the idea of my company. This is what I want," and this is what, and he said, he kind of felt where we were going with it. He had a good creativity, and so we built the Land Rover from the ground up. And I suppose for us, it was metaphor in itself. It was like having a solid base. So I wanted to have something that was a solid base. So we got a galvanized chassis brought over from the UK, and we built it from the ground up. And that's what we've done with New Wave. We built it from the ground up. So we have this vehicle that we have all our gear. And the vehicle then doubles as the whole, like you can cook at the back of it. We have a fridge on it, so we have cold drinks.
It's a proper
it's all geared out to, like, if we were off, like I do sessions around the country. So I could be like in Donegal, I could be in Dublin, I could be anywhere. So like the vehicle, I could literally be off the grid for 2 or 3 days. And there's a dual battery in it, so it can power all the devices, like the cameras, if I wanted, or for whatever needed, like for recharging the lights or anything like that.
Okay.
And even on it, there's we have a canopy, we have a change room on it. Wow. So it's an adventure vehicle. So we can set up base anywhere. And we have the standard paddle boards, which are the inflatable paddle boards. We have the surfboards, we have the kayaks, we have the climbing gear, we have the dive, we have everything.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome. I just can't imagine. You take a young person who is spending all the time, kind of in a urban setting with a phone, and you just take it 2 days off the grid.
Oh,
it's kind of it's almost like a shock therapy. It's like, so this is like a whole new world. It must feel for them like a different planet almost.
No, the thing is, our sessions are 4 hours. The thing about it is we can. If someone's gone through the program, we can do the overnight. We haven't done the overnights yet because I think the way say in America, what they would do is they bring people into the outdoors for 30 days, 90 days, and then incorporate them back in to their everyday life.
Yes.
We thought it's important that literally the 4 hour session that we're actually learning the skills, and then they're bringing it back into their life every kind of day. But I think it's something that we're looking at, that we will build up through the program, that we will have overnights and we will do expeditions. But I think that's definitely a goal for a lot of them.
Wow, but that would be awesome. I heard about this programs in America for problem children, like kids in their teenage years with a problem with the law and maybe theft and stuff like that. And they were literally taken for, like you said, for 7 days, 14 days, out completely in the woods, and almost kind of left them. And I was reading a very interesting observations how their mind starts to work, and quite often those kids who have these inclination to break the law and kind of they functioning the best, and they kind of finding the channel, and they kind of taking this leadership roles. Hey, this is how we can do this. How we can get the wood, and we can set the fire.
Completely.
And you kind of taking these energy that is normally kind of channeled in the wrong way, kind of converted as so this is how that could work. Completely. And then something clicks in their mind, and then they can come back to their
It's good because you've actually clicked on an interesting point, because I suppose when I was looking at setting up New Wave, there is the wilderness immersion adventure therapy, where, as you said, you will take a young person and you will just drop him into somewhere for 30 days, 15 days, whatever it is. But I suppose the thing about it is, a lot of those young people, they're actually just, someone arrives at their house, they're put in and they're transported to an area. So I suppose in a way, some of it could be against their will, and some of it could be, a lot of the time, this is the last ditch effect. These young people could be in acute units. It could be to kind of save their lives. But I suppose what we looked at setting up New Wave, one thing we ask is that the young person, they're willing to engage. So I think as the way I looked, in contrast to that, if some person has been taken from a family unit and dropped in the middle of the woods, and then you're saying, right, talk to me now about how you're feeling, that's going to take a lot of work to build up that kind of relationship. So I think there's just two sides of it. There's the wilderness immersion, and then there's a community kind of based adventure therapy. And I suppose with the research, what we wanted, we went with the intensive outpatient, the community initiative, which I think is really, really important, that people, when you work with a young person, that they get to go home at night and to work on those skills. because like we were speaking about before, like if you have that chance every day to be kind of applying the practice into what your transferable skills each day, you can kind of practice in that and come back and kind of talk about it. But when you're taking someone for 30 days into an area, now there's massive change and there's a massive growth in them, but then they're back on their own. And a lot of the kind of drawbacks from a lot of those programs is, what are the supports after the program?
Yeah.
Because I suppose you come back and
it was great, now it's over, I'm back to the groove.
And I think that is a big thing for us, because like if I was taking an area for 30 days, I think it'd be amazing. But like, say if something happens next week, what happens? And I suppose that's what we looked at, that we literally, that young person can come and go, okay, what you said about trying this, I've tried it doesn't work. Can we try something else? So then we try different things. Where like if someone had got this immersive therapy and then they're back, then they feel like they're on their own. And I think for us as well is to have that support, that when we work with each people, let's say once a week, then maybe once every 2 weeks, then once every month. But they know that, and maybe some people it's once every 6 months now, that they know, okay, I have this point of contact where I can kind of meet with Philip and kind of go over what's going on. And then sometimes it's just about refreshing what they've already done. And it's about to give them a kind of safe contact and an anchor point. And I think that works a lot. But it's about slowly kind of drawing back and pulling back on the therapy, that they are actually on their own, but that they still feel that they have the support. But you kind of need them to be able to do them things themselves, but to have a kind of level of support there as well.
Yeah.
But like, I think what's important is just what I always kind of say to any kind of family or young person is just come, meet us, see where we work. Even like a lot of young people, they kind of might get a brochure and they hear about it and they're like, you know what, this is just another thing. So that kind of thing. And like a lot of young people we've worked with, they've tried all the things. They've tried every type of therapy. They've tried all the different interventions. They've met every type of person. But all we say is just come along, meet me on a beach, meet me on a thing. The parents normally would drop them off. We'll go for a walk, go for a talk. If it's something that they feel that, okay, this is something I could work with. And then I think that's the point, that I sit down with them and then we do the kind of orientation. Then I'll talk with the parents or the whoever has referred and say, look, do you know what? Maybe this isn't the right time, or maybe this is it, or maybe this might take longer. And the whole thing about us is that you create that engagement. Yeah. But I do ask that the young people they want to be there. I think that's a big.
So this is important. So parents who has a kid who like don't want to do anything, they're probably not a good candidate for.
Well, look, it depends. Like what happens is,
because you're not going to be convincing someone to your company, right?
Yeah. Well, see, situations like that, I will might go to their family home and sit down and talk to the young person, or it might be something small like we might light a fire in the garden with flint and steel, and then the young people are like, oh, this is a bit different. They were expecting some guy to arrive with a suit. And then I was like, okay, we might go for a surf. Oh, okay. And then they're like, okay, this. And a lot of the young people, to be fair, they're curious. And young people are curious by nature. And I think they're a very good judge of character. So I think they come and they're like, okay, this is different. And they give me an opportunity to see where we go. And a lot of the time they keep going. And thank God we keep going. Like, to be fair, we if people are interested in what we do, we were very lucky for the awards. We had to do a video. And we teamed up with a company in Limerick, True Media, who had a good idea of how we work. And they came out in the sessions with us. And they put together this kind of video that we're going to use for the European Business Awards. It's like the public champion, which basically means people from all over Europe or all over the world can look at different businesses, see how they work, and about getting the message across about what you do. So I suppose you can only say so much with talking. And I suppose a picture says 1,000 words, but a video. Yeah. So we created this video. And I think it's a good kind of example of what we do. And I think it showcases Kerry. And I think it kind of showcases of exactly how we work. But I think if people listen to this tonight and they're like, okay, I kind of have an idea what he's saying, but how it works, maybe just have a look at that. It's 3 minutes and I think 25 seconds in beautiful locations in Kerry. And look, even if you get the locations that you can use yourself to go for a walk, I think that in itself is a positive. But it's on our... I can put a link to your page.
Yes.
But it's on our social media.
Your page and all the social media. So tell people how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, it's just our website is newwaveadventure.ie. Our email is info@newwaveadventure.ie. Or look, you can give us a call, or it's 089 600 8185. Or they can go on to our Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook and just type in New Wave Adventure. You'll find us.
Yes.
And chances are you'll probably be talking to Jasmine because I'll be off hopefully enjoying the outdoors. Every now and again you might get chatting to me, or rarely people get to hear my voice. Normally it's I suppose Jasmine gets to do a lot of the interviews and talks. So I appreciate it. You're privileged or not, I don't know. But people have to listen to me. Yeah, normally I'm just left to you. And that's actually was interesting on the video. It's just me working away and it's Jasmine talking. Which we're taught, like, it's a good balance because I suppose if you ever ring, it will be Jasmine you get to talk to. And she, actually interesting this is it, selfishness. Jasmine's background is education. So when we're looking at programs, like she's got a master's in education and aggression management. So everything we look at and curriculum design. So everything we look at is through an educational perspective and a social work perspective. Yeah. So like, say here, I speak and talking to you here for an hour about what I do. Mm-hmm. And this lady is the person who won the innovation award in Kerry with the Connect Kerry Business Board. So look, to be fair, there's two of us in it and Jasmine does all the behind the scenes work. She's like the director of operations. I get the nice work. I get to work with nice people every day. She gets to send emails and deal with people. So look, like any, I suppose, micro business, you have to have every facet covered. Yeah. And I suppose that's what we have, I suppose, with Jasmine's background and my background. But yeah,
I sense that you don't have also, based on everything that we said, you don't have like a massive pressure to grow the business, because like you would lost that connection. If,
do you know what?
If you be like a 20 people operation, it wouldn't be the same as it is right now, wouldn't it?
Do you know, when we set up, we got a lot of contact from people around the country and they're like, will you set up New Wave here? Will you set up New Wave there? And we were looking at it as a new business and like, it's not, you know what? New Wave is us. And I think for us, governance is key. So like every young person we work with, I work with them. And I know that I can sit down with any professional that has referred or any parent, and I can look them in the eye and say, this is what's going on for your young person. This is what I've seen, and this is what I'm trying to do. So I can, but if I had staff, I think it depends on, like, you can have great staff, but like with any good business, your business is only as good as the staff you have. Mm-hmm. And like some best staff in the world make or break a business. But for us, I think the key is the quality, what we can deliver. And I suppose we've got a lot of experience and a lot of kind of specialities in what we do. So for us, we will keep it, myself and Jasmine. Yeah. I don't think we will grow in any kind of way. Eventually what we might do, Tommy, is maybe do some kind of maybe supervision, or maybe kind of bring, like I was up in the college, they have a great BA in outdoor education, some amazing students there, and maybe bring some of the students on board to kind of show them how I work. Maybe kind of show so they can bring on and open up their own kind of little sectors, and maybe work with them so that they can set up their own.
That could be a way. I think that was kind of to start setting up those little
things and help people do their own thing, and maybe kind of show, look, it's from best practice. Yeah. No, this is what we do, and look, we're working kind of closely with AEE, which is the Association of Experiential Education in America, that will bring over, that will accredit the practice. That will be the first one, like I suppose in Ireland, that will be accredited professional advanced therapy, which is great then, because you have these professionals coming over, looking at what you're doing and kind of going, okay, why do you do this? How do you work? What's your programs? How do you assess? What are your indicators? All the stuff that's really, really important behind the scenes stuff, but just knows that there is quality to your product, which is really, like, it's really important to have passion, but it has to be grounded in something. Yeah. And ours is grounded in professional social work. But hopefully we'll get...
You're certainly not lacking on passion.
No, it's something we love, and it's something I really, really enjoy. And look, every day my office is the outdoors. I get to go outside in beautiful Kerry and all over Ireland.
And I think this was right, because like you would spend all your time managing people, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't get to do what you do.
And that's not what I want. Like, it's not, for us, it's not about setting up this massive company. It's about setting up a quality company that delivers a proper, really, really quality intervention for young people. And that's why we set it up. I've seen there's so many different things get set up. And I suppose for us, governance is important. And I know, and that's why we set up the way we did, that I had kind of complete control, myself and my wife, over how we work, why we work like that, and that we have the final say in what's actually going on in our programs. And I think that's really important. Yes. And I think we can oversee exactly what's going on. So look, as I said, New Wave, if it's grown, it just will be a case that we will be maybe working with young people around the country. Like I said when I started, that I will work with young people all over the country. And like, I'm only limited by my creativity. And as long as I have a green space or a blue space, now I've been pinned to my collar. I've been everywhere. I've been up in like the tip of Donegal. I've been Wexford. I've been Waterford. I've been Cork.
Awesome.
I will. But look, long as there's a space, like we use a lot of the Queensha forest parks, which is great.
Yeah.
But long as we have a green space or a blue space, we can work. And so be it, we will. But like in the care system, a lot of the young people we've worked with might get transferred to a different care home. They might be in a different foster home around the country. And once you've made that connection, attachment, I don't think it would be really fair to say, sorry, you're out of my boundary now.
Yeah.
You know, and like, especially the first thing we kind of say is that we set up this safe space that you trust in what we do, and we'll be with you in the journey. And then say, sorry, you're outside my area code.
That would be shitty thing to do.
No, I don't think so. I think that's what we do, Tommy. We make sure that we will travel for the young people we work with. And look, I think when we set up, if there is people that wants their service anywhere in the country, so be it. We're actually getting calls, which is blow our mind, from people internationally about wellness tourism and about people coming over from different parts of the world just to actually come to Ireland and to do like intensive event therapy. So that, look, maybe that's another world where
some of those tourists who want to do like a Clifton Smoker one day and Ring of Kerry second day, they should go with you and kind of calm down. Well,
I've had some tourists come over from New Zealand and America and from China, who and actually will do a week of intensive work and basically working on themselves, their self-awareness, who they are, and it will completely be we don't do residential, but they will basically book into maybe some BB or hotel in Tralee or in Kerry, and I'll meet them in outdoor locations around Kerry, and we will do whatever they're working on, and we'll have an intensive week. But it's as I said, everything is individual to the person. So if a person has time restraints or location restraints or whatever it is, we will actually see what we can work on for that person.
Yes. So is there any final message to our listeners?
Do you know what? I just think, look, New Wave Event Therapy was set up to make a difference. And I think it certainly is. We can see it in people we work in, that like the outcomes are massive. And I think, look, if you have a question, or if you have a young person or yourself that you're going through something at the moment, and you've tried conventional therapies, or you've tried, or you know what, even if you just want to ring and ask about what we do, how we do it, and how someone can get involved, just give us a call, get in touch. We will meet the person, we'll meet the family, we'll sit down, and if it's not us, if we're not appropriate for it, or if we will try and pass on to an appropriate service or an intervention. But look, all I say is get in touch first. Sit down, have a talk, and we can see what we do. And don't let like boundaries like financial restraints be a barrier, because like we set up a bursary program. We're looking at, we'll see, with businesses even kind of feed into it, because like I think sometimes the people who really, really need our intervention, they can't afford it and they're not connected with services who can pay for it. So as we always say, contact us and we'll see if we can kind of work something out with, there's a bursary program there. There might be some company that can sponsor a program, or look, as I say, we're only limited by our own creativity. Contact us and we'll see where we go from there. But look, we're here to stay, and our passion is adventure.
There's nobody can question your passion, Philip. I think you're doing very important and amazing job. So keep doing what you're doing, and thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Tommy. It's been a pleasure.